Service Committee, December 5th, 2023.
I'd like to call the Service Committee meeting together to order at 6:56 p.m. Members present, Steve Young, C. Aaron Sherrick, Britton Potter, and myself as chairman. Does anybody in the public have anything on public participation on the Service Committee? Seeing none, we got the minutes from the November 30th regular service meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 30th regular service committee meeting.
Got a motion from Ms. Sherrick. I need a second. Mr. Young seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anybody got any in the open projects that they want to discuss at this point?
No, I thought they looked really good.
Okay. So at this point then, anybody from the public? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 6:57.
December 5th, 2023.
We're going to call health and safety to order at 6:58 p.m. Members present are Dan Wireball, Steve Young, Mark McKeever, and myself, Chair. Is there any public participation for health and safety? Seeing none, you have before you the minutes for the November 30th, 2023 regular Health and Safety Committee meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Wireball, second by Mr. McKeever. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion carries. Changes to the property maintenance code. Mr. Gerner, do you have anything for us?
Yes, sir. So under our current property maintenance code, like the first section talks about you have to abide by the laws of the International Property Maintenance Code of 2012, and we incorporate that as if it were fully rewritten in our own code. And then under section 1355.99 is the penalty provision. My recommendation to streamline the process and to help Mr. Grove and as well as the city from simply going after repeat offenders based upon the same violations at the same property would be to add after A and B, which A is the unlawful acts, which talks about it's unlawful to not be in compliance with the International Property Maintenance Code. B talks about prosecution of violations, so currently we have to give you a notice of violation, and then also we have to give you a deadline, and you have to comply by that deadline or any granted extensions, etc. So C, I would ask to put in a repeat offenders clause, and it would be a new C. If a person, firm, or corporation to whom a notice of violation has been served as provided in Section 107 of the 2012 International Property Code is in violation of the International Property Code for the same violation at the same property within 2 years of the original notice of violation, the notice of violation procedures as outlined in Section 107 of the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code and incorporated herein shall be waived, and criminal prosecution may immediately commence as set forth in Division D hereof. And I should have typed all of that out, but I wrote it.
So essentially, the biggest thing I was listening for and I heard was within a 2-year period.
Right. So if we continue and you have trash, garbage, and rubbish on your porch, and we cite you, and after some whatever, there's compliance, and then 3 weeks later we're back at the same house based upon the same violation, or even the following summer, because at the beginning of the summer is sort of when we see a lot of the spring, we see a lot of the repeat offenders. We were out there last year trying to get you to clean up your yard, clean the lawnmowers, other things that are deteriorating in your front yard out of there, rather than having to issue you a notice and you coming in and asking for an extension and we playing that dance, or filing and going to the Property Maintenance Appeals Board. We would just directly, if you've previously been cited for the same violation at the same property, we would just go directly to court, where we have a little bit more motivation.
Is there any instances where you have 2 years from the original notice? Is there any instances you can think of where it's going to be continuing ongoing litigation and maybe 2 years from the original time has passed, even if you just issued another violation 30 days ago, but then we hit that 2-year window, so that you go, that's a reset? Is that kind of the norm, or do any of these that you know of in the recent several years drug on that long?
Only the very difficult. So the properties that are owned by real estate companies or banks, that are out of town. There's some properties owned by a shell corporation that has a Puerto Rico mailing address. So those ones will stay in process for 2 years, but those are not necessarily the ones we were too concerned about. There's the properties on Warren Street that everybody knows have been ongoing for over 2 years. Dudley Street's been ongoing for over 2 years. But those are basically zombie properties where the 415 Warren Street has a owner that I do not know where. And I did submit, so on, changing the subject, so on Friday of this week and Friday of next week, it will be advertised in the paper to collect bids to tear 415 Warren Street down. Back to that though, most of the ones that will last longer than 2 years or that I won't get any compliance within that 2 years are not they're the ones that will be in court already and will not necessarily need that provision. These are sort of the lower level weeds, trash, grass, and we keep going back to the same house. There's a couple, and Gordon could give you a list, but he's really into Colonel Crawford basketball right now.
Well, I understand that, part of his concern is that he's going out doing all this work and then we're getting nowhere. Because it's like 1 step forward and 2 steps back every time he has to reissue a new notice.
Right, and then a lot of times I go out or he goes out, he cites you, and day 10 or day 11, they clean it up, because they'll give you a 10-day or a 30-day. They clean it up, and then he's out next month again. Same people, same place.
And this speeds that up.
Right, and on the grass part, because I was reading the grass code, they already have that provision where we can just cut it and bill it, but we also don't always have the manpower to mow all of the lawns. So speeds it up somewhat. Is that the end-all be-all? No, and I'm open to suggestions on what else may be beneficial.
Mr. Young, any questions or comments or concerns? Sure. Mr. McKeever?
That's a good start.
Mr. Wireball?
No
Anybody
questions.
Anybody want to take any action on this evening?
I do, I would like to see that put into so I would make that motion to add that to the property maintenance code. And you could up the fines too if you wanted, I wouldn't care about that.
Yeah, but the fines are currently capped at the municipal court maximum.
Oh, okay.
I can't fine you over $1,000 in municipal court,
So
other than on specific.
I have a motion from Mr. Wireball and a second by Mr. McKeever to add section C, stating repeat offenders if a person, firm, or corporation to whom a notice of violation has been served as provided in section 107 of the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code, it is in violation of the International Property Code for the same violation at the same property within 2 years from the original notice of violation. The notice of violation procedures as outlined, okay, thank you. As outlined in section 107 of the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code and incorporated herein shall be waived, and minimal prosecution may immediately commence as set forth in Division D hereof. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Request for legislation has been made.
Thank you.
Anything on the open projects list that you wish to discuss, Mr. Young? Mr. McKeever?
No, sir.
Mr. Wireball? Any public participation for health and safety? Seeing none, we will adjourn at 7:06 p.m.
Lands and Buildings Committee, December 5th, 2023.
I'm going to call Public Lands and Buildings Committee to order at 7:07 PM. Members present, Kevin Myers, Brenton Potter, Dan Wireball, and myself, Sierra and Sherrick Chair. Do we have any public participation for Public Lands and Buildings?
We have no new information, right?
No. All right, seeing none, I would like to ask about...
I'll move to approve your minutes from November 30th, 2023 regular Public Lands and Buildings Committee meeting. Second.
All right, I have a first by Mr. Potter, or Mr. Myers, a second by Mr. Potter for the approval of the minutes from November 30th, 2023 regular Public Lands and Buildings. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so those have been passed. The rules and guidelines for establishing the Park Legacy Fund. We have nobody here for that. Did they give you any information?
I don't know that we would need rules and guidelines on this end at this point. I believe if they wanted to establish that with the foundation, they could go and make rules, and then at that point, when they wanted to distribute, they could distribute a gift with a earmark for a specific fund within the city, correct?
Yeah,
So I think that whoever said, I don't know that we really need to talk about that, was absolutely correct.
you're welcome.
I know.
Okay.
I'd like to request or make a motion that be removed from the open project list.
I would totally accept that motion. Does anybody have a second?
Second.
Okay, a first by Mr. Myers to have that removed from open projects, and a second by Mr. Wireball. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that has now been removed from open projects. Anything else on open projects we'd like to talk about?
No.
That was narrowed down perfectly. I like it. I do want to mention that we will be staying on top of the Pines Reservoir as soon as we can get some more information. I'm sorry. All right, do we have any public participation? All right, seeing none, I will adjourn Public Lands and Buildings at 7:09 PM.
Platting Committee, December 5th, 2023.
I'll call plating to order at 7:10 PM. Members present, Kevin Myers, Dan Wireball, Terry Spiegel, and myself, Chair. Is there any public participation? Okay, none. You have before you the copy of the minutes for November 30th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Okay. Got a motion from Terry, and a second from Kevin. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion passed unanimous. All we have before us is the open projects list. I don't see anything for me to discuss. Does anybody else have anything?
The mayor sent me an email. He would like to request that the renaming of Plum Street after Roger Moore be removed, but he would like to keep the All Miller Park Drive one on that open projects list.
They were referred together, so they
Right.
both stay or both go.
Okay.
They were referred, so I mean, we don't have to
That
talk
was-
about it again, but.
that was the
if we
email that
remove
I
it from the list,
received.
it removes them both, because they were referred together.
So we have.
I think
We'll just keep that
we have the
in mind.
knowledge that he wants to remove that when he wants to give us some further information.
How about we just leave it there until he comes and
Yeah.
refers just the one?
Well,
Is that right?
I had asked some questions about checking with GIS and EMA, and I was waiting to hear those before we went any further anyway,
Sure,
so.
I agree. All right. Is there anything else? Any public participation? All right, none being, I will adjourn plating at 7:12 PM.
Development Committee, December 5th, 2023.
I will call Economic Development to order at 7:13 PM with members present, C. Aaron Sherrick, Steve Young, Mark McKeever, and myself, Chair. First, we'll open it up for public participation, if there's any. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes from the November 30th, 2023 regular Economic Development Committee meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from November 30th, 2023, regular Economic Development Committee meeting.
I have a first from Aaron and a second from Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to open projects. The list is pretty short, but
No, I like it. It's the things that we have to talk about later, but nothing that we need to deal with now.
I agree.
okay. All right, moving on from that, then if there's any public participation at all. Seeing none, we will adjourn at 7:14 PM.
Finance Committee, December 5th, 2023.
Call Finance Committee to order at 7:15. Members present, Mark McKeever, Kevin Myers, Terry Spiegel, and myself, Chair. Any public participation for Finance Committee?
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. You guys are still not answering my question about the funding for the buyouts, why it was not put in the budget. Finance Committee is supposed to be able to budget everything in the budget to pay monies out, and you guys are leaving it up to the next council, the next mayor, to figure out where they're going to get this money from. And still, I asked the last time, you guys didn't answer me. What is the answer? Why wasn't it done? Why wasn't it put in the budget? And why wasn't it even considered?
Okay.
It was considered, and it was in the initial budget meetings we had. The auditor had it in there. Obviously, we have to balance that budget. They were removed because both chiefs were contacted and communicated with their departments, and there are no planned by us. I understand your point that that could change at the drop of a hat, and I think if that does happen, then that's her job to scramble to figure out, as well as our job to scramble to figure out how to deal with that. But it was considered. It was removed only because that was what was needed to be done to balance the budget at the end.
So you just kick it out for just because?
Absolutely not, Greg. Not
The
just
potential
because.
is there that one of these guys could get hurt or injured.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, or anything, and then all of a sudden now you're making the auditors scramble, okay?
That's her job, and that's our job.
To figure out where the money's coming from?
The budget has to balance. So let me ask, if I could turn it around on you, where would you have taken it out of to leave that $500,000 sit? There's not enough
You're taking money out of
money.
other funds to pay the safety service director.
You absolutely cannot do that for the general fund, Greg. That's not how the enterprise funds work.
Well, I understand.
Okay,
what I'm
but
saying
that's what
is-
you just suggested.
No,
So
I said, no,
would
I
you-
said you're finding money in other pots.
Because it's legal to pay him for that,
So it's
but it's
legal
not
to pay.
legal to pay what you're
Well,
suggesting.
then you should have figured something out. Thank you.
Should have figured something out.
No, we've had that, I mean, my time on council, we've had times that we've had to find because an extra person was going to retire or something, and we had to find the money, and it's just what happens. So next, any more public participation? Okay, we're moving to approval of the minutes from November 30th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Year-end budget appropriations, this just balancing everything out, I'm taking it.
All right, so I wanted to let you guys know that I talked to Miranda about this, and I had spoke to our local government services person after I had given her my initial auditor's report, and things have changed. So I'm going to work more off the referrals on the auditor's report versus what is in the finance committee referrals. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. The first thing on my report is a contract for airport management services with Kevin Dietre. He is our airport manager. Every year he's worked for $30,000. This year we're bumping it to $40,000 because he may retire soon. We're trying to make the job more enticing to the next person who may come. We also noticed the last time our workers' comp people were in looking at things that we have no contract, I believe, with him currently. So we just think it would be best practice to get one. Next, so gonna skip around a little bit. When I spoke to our local government services person, the way that the previous auditor had made a transfer to take money from the ARPA funds and use it to reimburse salaries last year won't work this year. So when I spoke to her, she said we should repeal sections 3 and 4 of Ordinance 39, 2023. I can look that up real quick for you. It was just transferring the money from the local fiscal recovery fund 2021, totaling an amount of $424,898.25 and transferring it to the general fund salary line for fire. It can't be a transfer. That's the problem. So then we get into this nice convoluted thing we have to do now, where she instructed me to repeal that ordinance, and then I would need to transfer the funds. And if you look at the first area of your transfer sheet, I'm moving, this is a budget transfer, not a regular transfer, from 271 general government, from contractual services and other uses, that should be a 27, sorry. Removing all of that money from those two lines and putting them into, sorry, I really messed this up, guys, I apologize. And putting them into transfers. That would be line item 28, putting all that money there, then I would no longer, once it's there, I can go ahead and transfer the money to the general fund. But I have to then appropriate that money, so if you look at your appropriations, the first thing, 101 program, security of persons and property, I am appropriating that $424,898.25 onto the personal services fire department line. And then if you want to jump back to the transfer sheet, then once we have it and appropriate it into the general fund, then we need to transfer that money, leaving some on that initial line and transferring $224,898.25 out of personal services. And then we want to put it into, we want to put $34,898.25 into the transfers line in fire department. And then we want to put the remaining $190,000 into safety forces fund under the fire department into personal services. So, and then that should hopefully take care of the ARPA fund reimbursing fire. So if you have any questions, feel free. So then I think that takes, so we did airport management. That would be the transfers and reimbursements to the fire department and appropriations to the general fund fire department. Okay. And then if you look, go back to your appropriation sheet, the next area is appropriations for safety forces civilian. We were just short in that line, so we wanted to appropriate $21,000 into safety forces civilian employees personal services. And then finally, oh, nope, I talked about repealing the ordinances. So I think that's it. Any questions? I know, that's a lot. Trust me, it was a very confusing phone call.
Okay. Did we touch on street lights or not?
Oh. No, I crossed, sorry, I did the wrong one.
That's all right.
Finally.
Let's get,
We want to appropriate for the streetlights, $10,000 into Program 1, Security of Persons and Property under Street Lighting and Contractual Services. Then we're done.
so, you want to tackle it, or you want me to try to tackle it?
Yeah, boy, I was thinking just requesting legislation as an emergency for the transfers and appropriations presented by the auditor in her December 7th, 2023 report.
Yes, that was kind of where I was going to.
Yeah.
Does that sound good with you?
And you second that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Yeah, we need a separate motion for the repeal.
Sure.
All right.
I'll make
let's do
a
that.
motion to repeal. What section is that, Kaylee?
3 and 4.
Section?
3 and 4. Yeah.
Section 3 and 4 for the amount of $424,898.25, correct?
That was total.
Yeah.
That was 3.
It's just repealing the sections out of ordinance number.
Right.
39, 2023.
As stated. As emergency.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
So I think that covers it all. Yes.
I don't think your first motion for the appropriations was done in emergency.
Well.
I said that.
He said.
I requested emergency legislation.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
Yep.
Okay. So with that, I guess we still have open projects out there probably if You want to look at them, I guess, go ahead. I looked at a couple, but.
I'm good.
Any other public participation? If not, we'll adjourn here at 7:26.